On November 2nd, we're going to decide the future of public education in South Carolina. I believe this year, as perhaps no year in the past, the future of public education in South Carolina is on the line. Let me tell you about the distinctions between my opponent and myself and why I think these distinctions are so important. The first is our background. We ought to expect our superintendent to have a history of commitment to and involvement in, support for, and reform of public education. We recently debated at Lander, and we were both asked the question, what has been your involvement in public education in South Carolina? My opponent could say only that he had been appointed by Governor Sanford to serve on the SREB, a Southeastern committee, that he had been to the meetings and that he had received and reviewed their reports. In contrast, I'm a graduate of South Carolina's public schools. In fact, I'm the only one of us who is. My wife and all three of our children are also graduates of South Carolina's public schools. I was a volunteer for the Education Improvement Act in the 1980s. Our education governor, Dick Riley, selected me to be his chief of staff and then to be the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Education, serving under him and learning from him and working with him on every issue facing public education. I helped start First Steps, our early childhood initiative in South Carolina. I've helped start and chair a community partnership that works to improve our high school graduation rates. I helped design our school district's strategic plan, and I've been a local PTA board member. As a result of my background, I believe, and also my positions, I've been endorsed by 16 of South Carolina's State Teachers of the Year, by our National Teacher of the Year from South Carolina, by 15 of our State Principals of the Year in South Carolina, and by South Carolina's National High School Principal of the Year. But our backgrounds are not the only issue. On a number of key issues, we take very different views. I'm opposed to vouchers and private tuition tax credits, which would undercut our public schools, would take funds away from our public school classrooms, would hurt our state budget, and would end up raising taxes for everyone else. My opponent supports two different varieties of expensive private tuition tax credits. Second, I'm a strong supporter of high-quality early childhood education. I think we get the biggest return, we save the most money, we help children the most when we invest while they are young. My opponent has opposed the expansion of voluntary 4-year-old kindergarten for young children who need help. As well, he has said that some children that young are simply too young to learn. We know actually that 4-year-old children and other young children are eager to learn. We just need to give them the help they need. Third, he has proposed that we pull out of the Common Core standards which 36 states in our country, including our southeastern neighbors, have adopted. If we took that step, we would hurt our ability to compete nationally for grants and to participate in public education reform efforts. We don't want to make that mistake. Next, he has said that he believes all our public school buildings in South Carolina, all our elementary schools, should be built from a single simple set of blueprints, the same for our middle schools and for our high schools. He has said that we should build schools like CVS builds drugstores. I think our schools are more important to our communities than retail boxes. They should be the centers of our community. We should design them to save energy, to inspire learning, and to build our local neighborhoods. We should expect to have different schools in historic downtown Charleston, in rural Bamberg, in small town Walhalla, or in suburban Lexington. Finally, he has said that our textbooks are too liberal. Our U.S. history textbooks in particular, that we should change how we select our textbooks. And his campaign has said they like what has gone on in Texas, where they have had a serious, embarrassing ideological fight over their textbooks. That's not the kind of image we want to project for South Carolina, and that's not the kind of fight we want to create. Let's reject this kind of divisive politics. Instead, let's work together to support and reform our public schools, to reject private tuition tax credits and vouchers, to expand and extend the benefit of early childhood education to our youngest children, to compete with every state in the union, and to work to get some significant grants for our children, our schools, and our teachers. And let's make our schools centers of community and reject efforts to fight over ideology or politics. Public education is the most important creation of the American democracy. It builds our communities, it builds our neighborhoods, and it builds our families. It stands for the proposition that every person is entitled to be a full participating member of the American democracy, and that every person, regardless of who he or she is, how much money they have, who their parents are, or where they live, is entitled to the opportunity to excel to their full potential. Let's reject division, let's embrace unity, and let's work together to see that every child and every young adult in South Carolina receives a high quality, not a minimally adequate public education. Thank you.